Hello, welcome to the Job Walk Podcast, an interview-styled mobile podcast where we go out into the field where the professionals are and share helpful information on buying, selling, remodeling, designing, or building your home. So join us for a job walk. Hi, we're here with Michael Jacobo, our local real estate expert. Michael, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hi. Michael Jacobo, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Carlsbad, California, and beautiful San Diego.
We are going to talk about how to value home improvements backyard edition. So we're going to focus on those improvements and what they add to your home in your backyard specifically. So can you just give us kind of an overview of how important these days a backyard space is to buyers?
Well, and you're probably going to hear me say this a lot today, in terms of the yard in general, but specifically because since we're talking about backyard, is I'm going to tell you this: it is a lot more important today, ever since COVID, more than ever now, since COVID, the backyard being your personal oasis. Very, very important. You saw since COVID prices of homes with beautiful backyards selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars more, for the simple fact that everyone is now, or most people, were working from home for that period of time. And a lot of people are still able to work from home. So your home has become really a much more of your oasis, more than it ever has been in the past.
So let's kind of talk a little bit about individual features. I'm just going to list some features, and then we can talk a little bit about whether they add value, don't add value, if they increase the opportunity for your house to sell faster. So obviously the first one is a swimming pool.
Yes.
What is the importance of that? Do people still look for houses for swimming pool? Will they say, I only want to look at houses with swimming pools, or don't want to look at houses with swimming pools? Tell me how that trend is, and if it does add value to a property and what that value might be.
Yeah, so it definitely adds value. In today's market, we are seeing people wanting swimming pools, I think more than it ever has before as well. And one main reason, just within the last couple of years, simply put, it costs a heck of a lot more today to have a pool installed than it did just three or 4 years ago. So if someone could purchase a home already with it, and probably most of these amenities that you're going to be speaking of today, they're already there, there's definitely going to be value in that.
And will people look specifically at houses with swimming pool? I mean, is that a main feature you're hearing people say, we want a house with a swimming pool?
Yes. Well, I think it all depends on where people are listening to this, right? So we're in San Diego, beautiful sunny San Diego, I like to always say. If you're in an area where it is sunny, it is warm, you have summers, you have great time all summer long. If you're in Arizona, same thing. Yeah, I definitely see the value, and people are asking for swimming pools. Like I said, more now, more than ever.
And what kind of value do you think it would add? Like, in terms of, is there a dollar amount that you typically, when you're sort of, comparing this house to that house and how to price something, if one has a swimming pool and the other doesn't have a swimming pool, what value would you attribute to that in dollars?
Well, I've always liked to tell our clients, if you just look at it, typically it's about $100,000, right? However, with that being said, you could get a pool that costs maybe $70,000 to install, or you could be on the opposite end of that and have a pool that costs you $500,000 to install, depending on what you're doing, rock formations, waterfalls, and things of that nature. I can see you getting that $70,000, about 120, 130% back on that, and it could be $100,000 to $150,000 back in return. Now, if you're installing a $500,000 pool, that doesn't mean it's not going to translate to your home is worth $500,000 more than your neighbor's because of this $500,000 pool you put in. So with that being said, there is value in the pool, but also take into consideration what you're doing and how much you're going above and beyond what's maybe needed.
So you wouldn't really advise a seller, oh yeah, you should go put in a pool before you you sell your house.
No.
Yeah, but if they have it, then you're going to associate extra additional value.
That's
with that.
correct. Yes.
And then with the swimming pools, just to kind of close in on this, is there a differential between like having a heated pool, salt water? Does that make a difference, or just a pool's a pool's a pool?
Well, you know, if someone's looking for a pool, somebody wants a pool, it will make a difference, right? If there's a buyer out there that says, "Oh my gosh, I love this home," and it has a pool, the pool is not necessarily their primary focus. I don't see it matter whether it has, you know, anything else, whether it's solar or whether it's heated or not heated, whether it's salt water or chlorine or what have you. Now, if it's somebody that's specifically looking for a pool, all of those things will matter.
Good. So then I think the next one is like an outdoor kitchen area. Mm-hmm. What kind of value does that add? Is that something people just like the swimming pool are asking for?
Yeah, again, going back to what I said earlier, as I mentioned, I'm going to tell you this a lot. Now, since COVID, we are doing things as a family much more at home than we ever did before. And so I definitely see the added value. Again, probably about 110% return on investment for your outdoor kitchen, just because it now allows you to have another place to congregate, to have your friends and family over, to eat dinner. So I love the outdoor kitchen aspect. It just adds.
And when you're going to describe an outdoor kitchen, say in a listing or a brochure, what do you consider an outdoor kitchen?
Well, for most people, an outdoor kitchen, they're going to say consists of a barbecue area.
Like a built-in barbecue?
A built-in barbecue. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's really mainly
That's it?
Mainly it.
And maybe a counter surface or something?
Some counter space. Might even have a sink, perhaps. Okay. It might have a little stovetop, maybe, to heat up a pot or something.
Okay. So relatively really simple. Really very simple. Qualifies for an outdoor
very
kitchen. Very
simple. Have it covered would be great. Having it covered for the elements. Maybe even have a TV above it or a TV in that area. Absolutely.
Okay, great. And then next, what about like an outdoor fireplace or fire pit? What type of value? I mean, I realize we're building sort of the dream backyard as we're talking,
right. I'd love to have all those.
Right. But a fire pit, you know, if you have, let's say you don't have a swimming pool and you don't necessarily have an outdoor kitchen, but you can sort of carve out an area, maybe in the back corner of the yard where you have 4 chairs and a like fire pit and make sort of a cozy little area.
Yeah.
Would something like that add value?
It's going to add value. It's not going to add as much value as what of the other two that we just talked about. Mm-hmm. So, you know, by adding a fire pit or a fireplace to your backyard, maybe that's $10,000, right? So, of the $10,000, you'll probably see a return on investment of about $2,000 of. So it could be worth $12,500 or $13,000 when you turn around and sell it. Where do I come up with these numbers? So what you're always studying. You could find places online that say, you know, what's my return on investment for X, Y, and Z, or what you have at your home. But that's relatively, from a National Association of Realtors standpoint, it's about average.
Okay. And then we talked a little bit about covering the kitchen. What about a patio area? So you come out your slider or your door opening from the rear and you have a patio that's covered and provides some shade. How do you see that in the...
Patio covers are also going to be a big part of it. I would recommend do a patio cover.
Okay.
Again, you will see one of your highest returns on investment for a patio cover. Again, a patio cover, depending on from what materials you're using, but maybe $7,500 to $10,000 again, depending on what materials you're using. But you'll see almost double return on that.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And then what about water features, a pond or a fountain or some kind of water feature in the backyard? If you can't, let's say you can't have a swimming pool or you don't want to put one in, but some kind of a water feature element that maybe is not really expensive, but just adds a little bit, kind of like the fire pit, just a little bit of something
I like the water feature. I like the water feature aspect. People do love the sound of water running. It could help in two different ways. I mean, obviously, if you're in an area where you get some road noise, if you get some outside noise, people try to mask it with a water feature, and it will help. It does help. But I think the water features are just nice to have. It definitely brings a little bit of a calmness, relaxation to someone's backyard if they have the windows open, or if they're just sitting back in their underneath their patio.
And we're talking about a tasteful one, of course, right? We've all seen the ones that aren't so tasteful. Yes. I think we all know what we're talking about. So spas.
Yes.
The above ground spa versus an in-ground spa. Tell us about that.
If you could stay away from an above ground spa, I would do it. It becomes more of a hassle, and it becomes more of a negotiation when they're actually writing the offer. I have seen many times where the buyers will specifically put in there, seller to remove above ground spa prior to close of escrow, because buyers don't want to deal with it. Buyers don't want it. Now, if it's a tasteful spa, the best case scenario would be a pool spa combination. But I would say if you do have a below ground spa, it's much, much nicer, much better than to have an above ground.
So an above ground's actually a negative.
Yes, it is.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. What about like sports oriented amenities, like a sports court, basketball, putting green, pickleball court, tennis court, obviously, if you had a large, but those kind of sports amenity type things. Mm-hmm. What type of values do those things add?
I like to tell my clients that have asked me that in the past, keep in mind, you're putting those items into your home for your own personal use. So don't put those particular items into your home for the purpose of thinking it's going to be of value to someone else, because you may be a pickleball player and the person who loves your home is not, or you may be a tennis player or a basketball player, or a sport court, and you put a sport court in and someone says, well, that's a waste of space for me. We don't have children, or we don't have the, so you could be limiting yourself to your buyer, or if not limiting yourself to your buyer, the buyers who are looking at that home don't see any value in it unless they have young children that play those sports or they play those sports. So I always like to tell my clients, you're doing it more for yourselves and for your own family, and don't do it as a return on investment.
So just in terms of listing,
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a house, similar floor plan, similar neighborhood, one has let's just say it's a sports court with a basketball hoop.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a putting green, and then the other house down the street does not have either of those things. Would you apply more value to the one with the sports court or not? It's just kind of a neutral feature.
I would not.
Okay.
I don't see a tremendous amount of value there. It's just a different buyer.
Okay. That's good to know.
Sense.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. What about like a dog run or some, kind of animal corral type chicken coops?
Same thing. I think it's more, it's an amenity that is, hey, great, this one already has a dog run. We don't have to put up a chain link fence, or we don't have to, to block off an area for our dog. It already has it there. Again, I think it's more specifically, that's going more to you as the homeowner currently put it in for your own personal use. And did you get it out of it? Hopefully you did. I don't see it as a value when you turn around and sell the home, though.
What about a garden area? So maybe raised garden beds and, kind of an area off to let's say you have a smaller yard, mm-hmm. and you don't have the ability to have a lot of extra amenities in there, but there's a space where you can make a nice garden and some raised garden beds. Is there value there? Is that one of those things kind of like the fire pit where you're not necessarily going to get a return on it, but it makes the house show nicely?
I think we could come up with some other ideas
Okay.
than to have a garden area. Sorry.
You're obviously not a gardener. If
No,
you're
I'm
calling it a
definitely not.
garden
I
pit.
know. Well, that's true. I'm not a gardener. Let's just put that on the record. But again, if you're looking for that specific person who is a gardener, who says, "Wow, I need to buy this house because of this garden," I don't see that being the case.
You don't see extra value in
Right.
that.
I don't see any
Fair enough.
extra value there.
What about an outdoor shower?
I think it all depends on where this home is located. It can absolutely bring value if your home is located on the coast. We're here in San Diego. If we're in Leucadia, if we're west of the 5 freeway, where most of these home buyers are purchasing because they love the beach and they love to surf, they will see value coming back to the home and being able to put the shower, just rinse off prior to going into the home. I definitely see the value.
Okay, and so let's talk a little bit the other side of it, like no-nos. Things you should probably, we already talked about the above ground spa, potentially before you list the house, maybe just get rid of it ahead of time.
Yes,
because
it's probably my biggest no.
Most likely. What about sheds and carports and those kind of things? And then any other things that you've seen before that are just like, ooh, this, we're actually losing value because of this backyard situation.
Well, we can start off with the sheds. The sheds could be a benefit. I don't see it as adding actual value, though, but it could be a benefit. What will it depend on is how it's made. If it's an old wood structure that's deteriorating pretty quickly, probably all full of termites, not going to be anything. It's not going to be worth anything. It's going to actually hurt, and it'll be a detriment to the sale. Now, if it's putting it out there, I don't know of any other company, but Tough Shed. If it's a nice Tough Shed, newer, well maintained, well kept, it could be a benefit to someone because they could see by putting extra things in there, tools.
So it could actually add value.
It could add value for someone, yeah.
What about the plastic sheds, like the Rubbermaid sheds?
The Rubbermaid, there you go. That was another same thing. I think if it's a well-made one, if it's located in the right location, placement in the backyard, on the side of the house, it's not an eyesore, that'll all play a factor.
What about fencing? How important is fencing to a buyer? If you have a nice...
Like the nice little white picket fence in front of
Not necessarily. If you have a fence that's dilapidated, that's crooked and the posts are falling versus a brand new fence. Mm-hmm. I would imagine sometimes you get requests for repairs on fencing and things like that.
Quite a bit.
So is there a value to a brand new fence? If you re-fenced your yard as part of a other project or something like that, is there actually added value?
Yes, there is going to be added value, and a lot of that, we talk about curb appeal in the front of the house. Same thing in the backyard. The thing is with fencing, what needs to be talked about is the fact that you need to remember fences are shared with the adjoining landowner or homeowner there, so it's not all on your dime. You're not having to pay for 100% of the fencing. What typically is a shared cost among the other homeowners. Now, if you have a homeowner to your left, homeowner to your right, homeowner behind you, you're now sharing your fence cost with 3 other homeowners. The hard part is getting all those 3 other homeowners to agree to replace that fence. If the fence is already done, yeah, there's added value there.
So as we wrap up here, I'm going to leave you with 2 questions. Number 1, what is the worst backyard you've ever seen? And then maybe a couple of tips for if someone's listing their house. What could they do to their backyard without, what would you recommend they do to sort of make their backyard show the best it can without putting in a pool and all those kinds of things?
I'll start with the first question, and it'll lead me to my second answer. But the first question is, the worst backyard I've seen is overgrown trees, overgrown shrubs, to where it doesn't allow the buyer coming through the home and walking to provide a vision and show the size of the backyard, right? What you want to do is you want to show the size. Don't leave it bare, but cut it all down. I mean, it was just overgrown. You couldn't even tell what was back there. Trash everywhere, things like that. On the flip side, what you can do is clean your backyard as much as possible. Less is more, I always like to say, inside the home, same as in the backyard. Allow and provide a potential buyer the vision of what can potentially be done in the backyard. And how you do that is showing off the size, showing the fences. Make those fences look nice, because it'll draw their eyes to the fence and not to, hey, this backyard doesn't have anything other than these fences. But it'll also show them that the size and what it could be in the future.
That's great. Thanks for those last couple tips. So just Get your yard cleaned up. Sounds like the pool is the largest impact item in terms of selling. So that's great to know. Could you tell us how to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. If you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me on my cell phone, 760-445-0060, or my email is michael@jacoborealty.com. My last name is spelled Jaco, B as in boy, O.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.